Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webcast today. We are excited to share a great story with you about how Oracle, Sierra Wireless, and Bias work together to achieve success in the cloud. My name is Bob Ure, and I will be your host today. I work on our cloud pursuit team at Oracle. I'd like to also welcome two guests today, Yogi Rajala, who is VP IoT Application Engineering at Sierra Wireless, and Sri Vuyuru, Cloud Solutions Architect at Bias. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
So in the next 40 minutes or so, you will hear a great story from both Yogi and Sri on how Sierra Wireless moved custom applications from on-premises to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure in less than 3 months. The migration leveraged Oracle Gen 2 Cloud, real application clusters, near zero downtime migration, and hybrid monitoring using Oracle's Management Cloud. So before we hear the details of this great story, let's talk a little bit about why moving custom applications to the cloud makes sense, and why this is something you ought to consider for your company. So first of all, we can talk about just applications in general. There are business needs that cloud can help with, and there are application-specific issues where cloud can be of support. So, everyone knows about reducing costs, CapEx to OpEx changes, and adopting a pay-as-you-go model. Improvements in performance and having better service level agreements is another business driver. Agility, flexibility, scalability. All the ilities. Automation is a big driver, improving things like patching and updates, upgrades. We hear a big one around strengthening security, compliance, and improving disaster recovery. And a lot of times moving a workload to a cloud infrastructure is the first step when it comes to moving towards a full-blown software as a service model. Now, when it comes to applications, what's driving these moves to the cloud? Well, first of all, a lot of times it's aging hardware. You might have hardware that's 5-10 years old, and it just doesn't make sense to invest in that capital expense on-prem anymore. Sometimes it's administration being too manual or taking too much time, or maybe these application changes that the business requires just aren't happening quickly enough. A big driver as well is a company's desire to move to DevOps, and the cloud really can support that. Modernization sometimes, maybe we want to move an application and upgrade it to more of a container or microservices based approach. Sometimes it's integration, and sometimes the application may be running at a hosting provider, and that is causing difficulty. So what are some factors to consider as you think about moving custom applications to the cloud? Well, at Oracle, we support on-prem implementations, cloud implementations, and hybrid in between. And so sometimes it would make sense to maybe leave the application on-prem. That's certainly a viable option, depending on these kinds of factors that you might want to consider. So what is your strategy? What's your application strategy? Do you want to get to the point where it's more automated, more scalable? Data residency can be an issue to think about. Where's the data going to reside if you move it to the cloud, and can you keep it where it needs to be? Certainly industry compliance, all different types of compliance, whether it be HIPAA or FedRAMP or PCI, those are considerations. At Oracle, those compliance standards are supported in the cloud. Sometimes latency and proximity is an issue to consider. How far away will your users be from that workload when it moves to the cloud? Sometimes this can actually be a benefit. You can move the workload closer to your users by moving it to a cloud data center. Dependencies and integration, sometimes an application is going to be hardwired to a mainframe backend or something like that. You can't move it. Certainly a viable reason to keep it on-prem. But sometimes you can move to the cloud and get better integration, better built-in integration to third-party software, other cloud vendors. Supportability is going to be better supported in the cloud. And what's your business risk for making this application change? Is it kind of a bet the business application change? Is it something that you can actually decrease your risk by improved SLAs in the cloud? What does that look like? And then how easy is it going to be to migrate? Is it going to be automated? Are there tools for that? So last thing I want to cover here is there are really 3 cloud strategies for custom applications that we see when moving to the cloud. The first one is move as is. And primarily this is to reduce costs, maximize performance. A lot of times the drivers for this are just difficulty scaling, capacity constraints, performance degradation. You're typically just going to move as is. You're going to take the VMs, you're going to take the application and run it right on bare metal, that kind of thing. The second option is improve. So not only are we going to move the application, but we're going to make some difference in how it performs or what functionality might be there. So a lot of times administration and functionality challenges are the drivers here. We're trying to reduce administration costs. Maybe we're trying to add modern functionality like a chat bot or a mobile capability. Maybe we're just trying to upgrade the version of the software or improve security or improve the database. And then finally, we have what we call modernize. And this is where we're going to shift to new technology or add new functionality. A lot of times we're looking at antiquated application code, or we're just not getting the capabilities out of the code we need. We want to adopt a DevOps architecture or maybe move towards Docker or microservices. Another way to think about this is to rehost your application, to re-platform your application, or to refactor. And a lot of companies take all of these approaches in one way or another as they move workloads to the cloud. And I think you'll see flavors of this as Bias and Sierra tell the story a little bit later. All right, so for today's agenda, we're going to cover the goals and objectives of this Sierra wireless move to the cloud. We're going to talk about the decision-making process. We're going to talk about the engagement scope, what the journey actually looked like, the benefits that were realized, and lessons learned from this opportunity. So let me go to the next slide here, and I'm going to bring in Yogi from Sierra Wireless here to start us off. Yogi, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you being on our webcast. Could you introduce yourself and give us a little background on Sierra Wireless?
Thank you, Bob, and it's a pleasure joining you and Oracle and Bias on this webinar. And let me talk first about the Sierra Wireless. Sierra Wireless is a multinational IoT designer and manufacturer, delivering devices, software, and service solutions in a variety of industries. And just to name a few, we serve in automotive, energy, field service, healthcare, infrastructure, and industrial monitoring. Our vision is really to empower the businesses to reimagine their future in the connected world. And we do this by enabling them to thrive and transform in the connected world. The IoT value chain is fairly complex in the sense that you got the devices and sensors on one side, and then you got the various connectivity choices in the middle, and then on the other side you have the customer-facing business applications and internal operational enterprise systems, and all this has to work together, to bring the value to the customers, and that's where Sierra comes in. And we, as a Sierra, simplify the IoT journey for the customers. And as for me, I'm VP of IoT application engineering, and I head the engineering and as well as the product management aspect for the IoT application group here at Sierra.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for that introduction, Yogi. And, it sounds like Sierra Wireless is doing some great things. I'm excited to learn more about your IoT business for sure. Let's just jump right into it here and talk a little bit about the challenges that your company was facing that kind of led you to consider cloud.
Yeah, I think in 2020 has been very interesting year for all of us, Bob, as you can imagine. I think that the COVID-19 has brought a lot of changes around us, and some of the things of the post effects of the COVID, few businesses actually seen an increase in demand as the post effects of the COVID. And then you also saw some businesses, lost their customers because of the COVID impacts. And in addition to the COVID-19 effects in 2020, we had launched a new solution in a Q3 of 2019. And, as we have seen, how the market reacted to our previous products, we had seen very positive response from the customer base. And between the COVID-19 post effects and the new product launch, we were in a situation that our business has seen a sharp increase, that we were at a situation where we were surpassing our infrastructure at our data centers to support the growth. And you know, in addition to these changes, as you mentioned earlier, Bob, that any company running in a data center, they have to deal with refreshing the hardware once it ages. And you got to go through the cycle of the capital investments and refreshing the hardware. And we also needed to see that how the growth anticipated, and see that the hardware that required to support the growth of the market we were seeing. And in essence, those were the challenges we were seeing. Few challenges, mainly related to the product launch and COVID, and few challenges with any application running in the data center.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a bit of a perfect storm with a bunch of new demand, which is really great for the business, and then kind of shrinking capacity and aging hardware. And it was like, okay, this is a great time for us to consider cloud. So a lot going on at your company, for sure. It's great to hear of your growth. Let's shift our attention a little bit to kind of the goals and objectives of what you are looking to accomplish with sort of this modernization vision and moving to the cloud.
Right. And I think we had the both few business as well as the technology objectives as we were facing into the junction in the last year. Our first and foremost priority was to move to an environment where we can support the growth that market was looking for in a quicker time frame. So we wanted to move to the cloud quicker, on time, under budget. And we not only wanted to move to the cloud on budget, we also wanted to make sure that the operational cost once we move to the cloud comes to the close of where we estimated. And those were the business objectives we had. In addition to we are exploring an international opportunities, and some of these opportunities require us to set up an environment in the region within their countries. And we had also exploring the opportunities and in participating where there are deeper security needs, like a FedRAMP. These are the objectives on the business side. And on the technology side, we wanted to take this as an opportunity to any of the incremental improvements we needed to do to the stack to modernize also as an objective for this move. And I would say these are overall our key objectives for this migration initiative.
No, that's great. I think so many times when we think about moving to the cloud, there's so many things that are built into cloud infrastructure now that the company doesn't even have to worry about anymore. Things like FedRAMP, things like the ability to scale on demand, things like taking advantage of built-in capabilities around technology stacks and that kind of thing. So that's great. I appreciate you sharing that. Now I know there's a partner angle to your story. Can you share a little bit about the decision behind partnering with Bias and how you made that decision?
Right. We realized at the beginning of this initiative that with the timeframes we were looking for and the criticality of the meeting that time frame, that we know that we need a partner with us for this journey. And we've been working with Bias for over 5 years, and they already manage our Oracle databases in our production environment. And we know that they know the Oracle database operations very well, and they've been helping us for years. And looking and interacting with Bias and learning a little more, we learned that Bias actually moved a lot of the partners to the Oracle Cloud. And some of these moves are with the large organizations like Office Depot and FedEx. And it came to very clear to us that the BIOS not only had the expertise in the database side, they also have the other areas like networking and security and all the ingredients needed for cloud migration. And BIOS was also open to take this opportunity as a fixed price project, which is also helps in decision. And to be honest, it was very easy decision for us to move to BIOS because of all their prior expertise, and we've been already with a great partner with BIOS for 5 years.
No, that's great news. Sounds like you have a great partner in BIOS, and we certainly appreciate our partnership at Oracle with BIOS. We love working together with our partners, and BIOS has just been a great company to work with on our side. Let's turn our attention to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, if you will. Why did Oracle Cloud Infrastructure make sense for Sierra Wireless and your objectives that you had?
Right, and Bob, I mean, I think on the surface, any primary cloud provider these days can support any custom or typical IoT applications to move to the cloud. I say that at a macro perspective, right? And what makes the Oracle choice for us for this initiative is our application already runs on Oracle and Oracle database in a rack configuration. And what we learned is the Oracle database rack configuration is natively supported by the Oracle Cloud, which is a huge plus for us. And we also learned that the Oracle Government Cloud gives us a ability to be FedRAMP certified for the application layer, given that at the infrastructure layer, Oracle Government Cloud meets the requirements. And we also like I had done a lot of cloud migrations, and some migrations. The hard part is to kind of accurately estimate the operational cost once you move to the cloud. And we like the simplicity of the Oracles in terms of the number of the knobs there to impact your operational cost, and the flexibility in terms of the annual spend, which gives us to go up and down as the needs of the organization changes. I think there are times we want to do load testing that our capacity on that month may needed more capacity, and then the next month we may not do the load testing. So we like that flexibility in the annual computing on the Oracle side. And these are the Oracle on Oracle, FedRAMP certification, flexible pricing, all these ingredients kind of helped us to choose Oracle as a choice for this initiative.
Oh, that's great. One of the things we found is that performance is important, but price performance is even more important.
Right.
And so do you get the performance that you're looking for at a cost that makes sense for your business, in a way that's flexible in terms of consumption with all the certifications. So it's great that it looks like OCI benefits really matched your needs. So, at this point, I'd like to bring Shri in from BIOS. Hi, Shri. Can you introduce yourself and give us a brief overview of your company?
Hey, Bob. Thanks for having me today. So my name is Shri Voyuru. I'm a cloud solution architect at BIOS. I've been helping with multiple customers across the Oracle technology stack for more than 10 years. And in the recent few years, I have been helping multiple organizations in their cloud transformation initiatives. A little bit about BIOS here. We're a global IT services company, and we're also a systems integrator providing IT solutions for multiple enterprises today that will help to deliver business value across the companies. And BIOS has been there for over 20 years now, and one of the Oracle's platinum partner. And one more thing I want to add is, as you can see in the slide here, we have lot of awards and recognitions across the entire technology stack at Bias.
No, it's great. We've done so much business together, Oracle and Bias, and, I think it's just benefited customers like Sierra Wireless and others in the end. And, it's just great to see your investment and dedication to Oracle here. A lot of real good awards that you've won and rightly deserved. So let's go ahead and move forward on what was actually moved to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And I want to ask this question to both of you. So, let's talk a little bit about what actually moved from on-premises to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And maybe Yogi, why don't we start with you if you could comment first, and then Sri.
Sure, Bob. We actually moved the entire stack for a single vertical solution from the on-premises to the cloud. The stack includes the different portal applications that are used by the customers, and mobile applications that are being used by the customers. And we had both internal and also a customer-facing APIs that are integrated with the partners in the stack. And in addition to that, we had various middleware components that are a device communication hub, as well as the application enablement platform that serves as a communication to the devices, and also processing of the data coming from all this thousands of the IoT devices in the field. So that the complete stack and sitting on top of the top of the Oracle database. I'll let Sri add in terms of the environment and infrastructure and database details. Sri.
Thanks, Yogi. Talking about the scope of engagement, like Yogi mentioned, the entire focal point application platform and supporting infrastructure, network, database, and the entire tech stack is moved from on-premises to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And we have made sure that the respective components are going to either IaaS and PaaS platform wherever they fit well. And if you look at when we did the initial assessment, on premises, we had app servers with coming from different operating systems, different CentOS, RHEL, Windows, and different versions of operating system as well. And this project has given us an opportunity to move and consolidate these servers into the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure with the latest VMs and latest hardware, etc. Coming to the database side of it, if you see on premises, we had 11G database, and this is an opportunity we had for move and improve part of it, where we were able to upgrade and migrate the database to 19C, which is definitely faster and better. And last but not the least, I also wanted to highlight the use of Golden Gate. Golden Gate has helped us immensely to reduce the downtime of the migration window, which means the downtime for business, and ensure that we were able to migrate the entire database in near zero downtime from on-premises to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure.
Well, that's fantastic. What a migration this is. And if we go back to something we said at the beginning of this webcast, this whole slide, the migration happened in 3 months, which is a testament to both Sierra and Tobias and your preparation and your skill sets. The other thing I want to point out here is a lot of times people think that Oracle Cloud Infrastructure is just for Oracle technology or Oracle applications, and you can see here, a SQL Server and some Microsoft, build servers that are a part of this whole thing. So really, kind of a comprehensive solution that you move, customer-facing aspect to it, a lot of data coming in. That's a fantastic story, guys. So let's chat a little bit about the approach that you took with Sierra Wireless, Shri. If you could just share with us a little bit around your methodology, I think that'd be very interesting to all of our listeners today.
Yes. So, Bob, we have seen many customers, and in their cloud journey, the most important for them part of it is they want the journey to be very smooth and a seamless transition to cloud. So at BIOS, we have a program called Accelerate, which is a proven methodical approach, which we use for all the cloud migration initiatives for all the customers. Here, basically, the program is built around, at a high level, 3 different phases, and we follow an agile methodology where we plan it and provision and validate and test all the components of the migration, and we basically have built-in templates across the technology stack, whether it is infrastructure, networking, storage, database, etc. And all these templates were designed and developed by the BIOS solution experts with many years of experience. And underlying this program is a BIOS digital platform, which is a secure and compliant platform which we use for automation, and especially for infrastructure provisioning. It helped a lot for us in the case of Sierra Wireless as well. And this is the platform that helps us in provisioning and orchestration, and with all the DevOps tools and technologies integrated as a part of the platform. So that's an Accelerate methodology we use in a nutshell for our cloud migrations.
Yeah, thank you. Sounds like an excellent approach for helping customers move to the cloud. And as we mentioned, I think you've implemented this for many customers that have moved to Oracle's cloud, and we appreciate working together with you on that. Let's talk a little bit about the stages and the outcomes of the implementation, if you will. So, what were the actual steps that you took, and what was the outcome and the time frame?
So we talked about the timeline angle of it a little bit earlier. When Yogi mentioned before the start of this project that this needs to be completed in 3 months, that sounded like a little bit far-fetched idea for me.
Yeah.
But at the end, we collaborated with Sierra Wireless team, and we really came across multiple approaches, thinking out of the box, and parallelized a lot of project management tasks to make sure we were successful within the given time frame. And once we did the assessment in the first few weeks and jumped right into the project QA phase of it, we worked with Sierra to ensure that the provisioning and the deployment part of it is done as soon as possible. And there was very rigorous testing that was done by the application teams. And that, because of end-to-end testing and identifying all the issues ahead of time, helped us to move these application to production on OCI within the given time frame. And if you ask me, 2 things that I wanted to highlight how we achieved this in 3 months is, number 1, the skill set that the BIOS team and Sierra Wireless team has brought to the table. And number 2 is the collaboration between the teams has really helped to successfully complete this project within this time frame.
Oh, congratulations. That's just a fantastic outcome. And yeah, I would agree with you. 3 months is a pretty tight time frame, and the fact that you accomplished that so seamlessly together is great news. Let's shift our attention a little bit to the technical end state. Could you comment on that briefly?
So we talked about what are the technologies that are moved to OCI. But if I have to sum it up, I would say the most important application platform at Asira is moved to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, which is now highly secure, more flexible, and better scalable, and it to accommodate the future business growth. So that to me is the biggest highlight if I have to talk about the end state. And also the opportunity that we took to upgrade the database technology, which is from 11G to 19C, and integrate with these applications is a big achievement as well. And another thing I wanted to highlight here is the use of Oracle Management Cloud as an enterprise monitoring solution is a big deal, because we had different monitoring systems before the migration, and we were able to use we were able to use OMC as one-stop shop after OCA migration. And we also integrated it with the log management and incident management systems at Sierra Wireless.
No, that's great. Yeah, we're finding that there's such a need for the ability to migrate and move to the cloud, but also have a hybrid implementation where you're still integrated back to some things that are on premises or in another cloud or from another SaaS vendor. And it sounds like, the management part of this and maybe even other parts were, along some of those lines of hybrid and, integration back to on-prem. So, it's great to see kind of the scope of this implementation. Let's go ahead and move on to kind of the benefits from all of this. And this is a question for both Yogi and let's go ahead and talk about the benefits here. Yogi, if you could start out first and then Shri could follow up.
Sure. Bob, I think, first of all, I'll start saying that, we moved to the cloud on time and in the estimated cost. And that was a big benefit for us to support the growth that was needed for the business in a timely manner. And in the end, we reached to an environment where we can scale as per the needs of the business by adding more capacity for the systems. And the other, we were able to have a failover environment, the DR environment, without having to pay for 2 times the hardware investment. That was a big benefit for us. And we also had feedback from the customers since we moved to the cloud that they're seeing an increase in the response. Increase in the response in the sense quick time to the page loads by the customers, which was a big benefit for us. And all the other cloud benefits we talked about by you, Bob, like in the earlier, are given anyway because we're in the cloud. So. Shri, you'd like to add a few items?
Yeah. Sure, Yogi. I would like to highlight a couple of items from my end. I know it sounds like a cliche, but eliminating the future hardware refresher costs is definitely a big one for me, based on bias experience with multiple customers who have taken cloud as their end goal in the last many years. And the second one I wanted to highlight is the ease of management of the infrastructure and databases on OCI. Because once the day-to-day operational activities or frequent operational things like patching or backup and recoveries, or if you want to set up a new database or a new VM, things like these are easily handled on OCI. And if I if I have to think about an example, probably like a year ago, we were struggling to coordinate with multiple teams to just add some additional storage for the database, getting some hardware disks, making sure it is going into the right rack, taking it to the data center, testing it out, etc., etc. And now everything can be done in a click of a button. That for me is a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. Great benefits all the way around. Thank you guys for, for sharing your story. And, we are excited to continue working with both Sierra Wireless and Bias as you, head into the future and further, push for your success. I have one more question for both of you. And that is, what were the lessons that you learned from this project? And let's start with Yogi, and then Sri, if you could chime in at the end.
Sure, Bob. I think with any projects, I think I would say if someone were to move to the cloud or any project, plan for the long pole items early, and a lot of the items in terms of if you have a security requirements that you need to integrate with your corporate Active Directory, or you need to integrate with some corporate multi-factor authentication. Any of the dependencies of the cross-organizational system integrations or IT availability, plan for them well ahead of the time. And of course, if the application has any third-party integrations, you want to plan for those and give ample of time to your partners to say that, hey, we're migrating to a new environment, and we want to do the integration testing so and so time, and plan for those things. And the other thing I would say is, in addition to the migrating the actual core application, think of all other operational elements that are needed for the business in terms of the monitoring, logging, and integration with any of the alert reporting systems. Plan all those things ahead of the time, and the security. And I think these are the things I would say are the main items to consider, that as you're getting into the migrating to the cloud, in addition to any application architecture or design or rebuild considerations.
That's great. Thank you, Yogi. Sri, anything to chime in on here?
Yes, definitely, Bob. I would not go live on any project without having some lessons learned, right? One thing I wanted to highlight is automation is the key. That's the first one I wanted to highlight, because a lot of these enterprises want to move to cloud faster. And for that, automation is really required, and that plays a major role. And the second thing I wanted to highlight is the data migration strategy is very important. If you're a DBA listening to this webcast, I would highly encourage you to start thinking about how fast you can migrate the data and what methodology you need to use to migrate the data from on-premises to OCI. Last but not the least, for every project manager, I would say make sure you allocate necessary time in the design and validation phase of network and security requirements. In our case, there was a time just before go live where, because of a human error, one of the security rules was not there, and because of that, the go live date could have been jeopardized. And but luckily, the teams were able to identify and resolve the issue quickly, and we went live on time. So that is one of the other lessons that I have learned, that allocate necessary time and plan for those things ahead of time. That's what I have learned from this project.
Oh, those are some great lessons learned, and thank you so much for sharing those and really the whole story. We appreciate you, you both being on the webcast today. And we, like I mentioned before, are excited about the partnership we have with both companies. So before we open up the webcast to questions, let me just share a couple of next steps that any of our attendees can take if they would like to know more. So obviously, if you're interested in the services of Bias, here's a way to get a hold of them. You can certainly contact Oracle to get information from any of our sales folks. We have an always free tier of our cloud that you can just try out and get a feel for what Yogi and Sri have been talking about, and that's at oracle.com/cloud/free. And then finally, we actually have some labs that are live for on-prem apps and all kinds of other workloads moving to the cloud, where you can just go in and check that out.